Welcome to the Victory Multisport Podcast. This is Coach Sarge, and I'm with Coach Kenny.
What's up?
And I have a couple of very special guests. I have dialing in by remote on our screen and in your ear is Annie Schober from Indianapolis. How you doing, Annie?
What's up, Annie?
Good, good. Good to see you guys.
Great to have you, Annie. And I have Matty Ice, Matty Matz, right?
Yeah.
From Team Victory. How you doing, Matt?
Good, good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So we appreciate both of you coming on the podcast today. And, you know, with a main theme of we really want to talk about our race camp series. This is the third year in a row we're going to operate a race camp in late May, early June. And we're going to get into a lot of stories about your experiences in the past couple of race camps and how that thing went down. But, you know, I want to talk a little bit about Kenny. You were just in Bermuda doing a training.
Yes, I was. Yeah, we went real quick weekend, and we had a great plan of we're going to swim really long on Saturday. But sometimes the plan, I think Mike Tyson once said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
We got punched in the face. Getting there was 40-mile-an-hour winds on Saturday. Couldn't necessarily get into the water like we wanted to, but I was thinking 10 miles over the course of 3 days, and we ended up with 11. We just had to break it up, 10K, 5K, 2 miles, but it was fantastic. Made this week extremely hard for me to get in the pool because all of a sudden you're breathing fresh air, you're not in chlorine, you're not trapped 25 yards, and I can just get long. So it was really hard. This week was not fun getting back in there.
Yeah, part of it back to the grind, right? The other stuff was fun, but that's an experience that I've had in other facets of life when I was in the military and with the Boy Scouts, that if, you know, the harder we train, the easier the race day is or the event itself. So that's awesome.
For 3 days, we got down there 11 miles. We had a business meeting with Bermuda Marathon, the Triangle Marathon crew, and we have some exciting news going to be coming down on that. And then we had all of our swims. We got to see mates of ours. It was fantastic.
That was a great
Went
weekend.
into Hamilton. You were cheering for Arsenal soccer, and that was kind of cool.
I became an Arsenal fan, I guess, by default, right? So,
I mean,
then as soon as you thought everybody was for Arsenal, you'd meet somebody else and be like, I hate those guys. I'm Liverpool. Right?
Well, the best part about it, we're in this bar called Docksides, and we're just having a beer, and it's in the afternoon. We had already swam, raining like crazy, and he's like, "Oh, well, you want to go in here?" I'm like, "Sure." Looks like everyone's watching a football match, so we're watching it. And I go, I love this. First team who scores, I have no clue. I'm going to scream real loud. First team scores, I do. And everybody's starting to cheer. He's like, oh, who is that? I'm like, I have no clue. I'm not sure. But it was fun. I mean, we were going with it.
We couldn't figure it out because the whole bar seemed like it cheered for the first goal. And then the other team scored a goal and they cheered again. I don't know. It was very confusing. I'm not necessarily the football fan that they would say. Traditional football fan, soccer fan. So awesome. But we did have a great weekend. We got a lot of work done. We had some fun. And the weather, while it was, you know, not great on Saturday, Sunday was fantastic. Got 10K in, and it was beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was nice. We had a mate that was about a mile across the harbor from where we were at. And I just happened to reach out to her. She was my mom's best friend. And her husband sailed with Charlie, my stepdad, and he had a kayak. So we were able to get the kayak. We could practice him beside me, my sighting, the sun coming up. So it was fantastic. It was really, really worked well.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's awesome. And then, so I got sunburned there. I got sunburned in Texas, and I got sunburned yesterday working with the Boy Scouts. So I'm a complete mess right now. So I haven't learned after all these years to take sunscreen with me everywhere I go. So I'm working on it. So
Annie, it's not a full body tan either. It's like his elbow, the back of his knee,
just all the
his Achilles,
small exposed parts. Right, a stripe on my ankle where the socks and the calfskins don't meet. Right, so everywhere. So
and Matty, he's normally like a glass of milk, like as white as can be. And he's got these weird like little stripes here and there. It's fantastic.
Oh, it's a mess. So yeah. But we had a great time in Texas. Peroni, the Pinions, myself. We knocked out the Ironman 70.3 Texas while we were down there in Galveston, and did well, even though we had some unpredictable weather as far as swim was fantastic, perfectly calm ocean or an intercoastal swim, so brackish water. a jump in, which was actually my first time ever having a jump in race. Had to jump off a dock about 6 feet above the water. So you're kind of flying through the air a little bit. So you had to protect your goggles, and I did that really well. Forgot to breathe out of my nose. So I took salt water right up the snout right as I came into the water. So I'm clearing that out. But other than that, the swim was great. The bike was fantastic. Less wind than we would normally expect in that race. And had a great time. And then we got on the run, but hot.
Did you feel like a bacon frying in a skillet pan?
It was terrible as far as that was concerned. It was about 80 and 80, so 80 degrees with 80% humidity. So we just managed, right? We walked when we could. We ate ice. We put ice down our kit. We drank Gatorade and water, and just got through it, right? Just grind it out and figure it out. So we all got medals. No one got hurt. We didn't have any issues from our team. And the day ended up being extremely well for all of us, and we had a fantastic time. So I'm wearing my Ironman Texas shirt. For those of you on YouTube right now, can check it out.
Oh yeah.
It's my swag.
They're not checking the shirt out. They're looking at your tan lines. Bro.
Yeah, I know. They're trying to see that, right? So, all right. So, Annie, I wanted to bring you into the conversation. You know, by being remote, we're going to have to look at the screens here when we talk to you. So bear with us. But, this is our third year doing race camp in the north area of Pittsburgh, right? We use different venues that we've all trained in and that Kenny and I have trained in for years. Moraine State Park, Lake Arthur, North Park Pool, some of the other parks and facilities around here, the YMCA and so forth, Richland Swim Club as well. Why don't you give us a first impression of that first year? You drove out by yourself, and you managed to come from Indianapolis all the way to Pittsburgh to this crazy group of people that you kind of never met in person, right? And just this was probably the first time you got to see everybody in person. So why don't you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. First year race camp was very nervous to just go by myself and meet everyone. I'm not one to just go and do things like that. So it was definitely out of my comfort zone. I remember the first day, walked up to the pool, Kenny greeted me with a big hug. Never had met Kenny in person before. We'd only ever, had that relationship over the phone, talking to each other. So that was really cool. And then just, got in and swim. And then when I got out, that's when I met Kendall-Lee. And me and her really hit it off. She was kind of the one that I leached to that first year of, who am I going to talk to? Okay, cool. These are the two people I'm going to talk to.
So are you normally a walk up to somebody and just meet them and
absolutely
say hi to
not.
them?
No. Yeah. In a crowd, not trying to actively talk to anyone. Very content keeping to myself. So was definitely out of my comfort zone that first year, going to camp and meeting everyone. And because you talk to these people and you feel like you know them over social media, but it's still just kind of just different when you meet them for the first time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of nervous energy for me, at least.
Annie, that would probably be your first win that weekend, was just coming here, 5-6 hour drive, not sure what was going to happen. You're putting the trust in, this is going to be run well. I don't know too many people. I have relationships via phone, via text. You get a good gauge of people, but, I was so proud of you just coming here. And then once you got here, it was like legitimately your wings just started flying, man. You were soaring that whole weekend. All of a sudden you're latched to me. And then once you meet 5 people, she wants nothing to do with you. She's
nothing
like,
to do with Kenny.
She's like, yeah, Kenny, I got my crew now.
I got my crew now. Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, just the whole, that whole first year was really just cool. Just, I do all my workouts by myself. So I'm used to just training by myself. So just getting to train with people, ride bikes with people, run with people was really different. I've never tried to talk and run with someone. So just that aspect of everything was totally different. And just very, very fun for me. Yeah.
Annie, tell the listeners, you came to Victory as a triathlete, correct? Or am I wrong with that?
No. So when I first started with Victory, I just wanted to run and get better at running and run fast. I'd always just lifted and gone to the gym. The cardio that I did was walking on a treadmill and doing the stair stepper. And I was just ready for something different. So yeah, I got into Victory just to run. Didn't know anything about running shoes, stretching, any type of what I was doing. So I naturally got shin splints, and kind of what we put in my program was, hey, ride a bike, swim, let's do some other activities to help you recover. And I think it was Kenny would just randomly text TRI. I'm sure other people have gotten those.
Oh yeah,
similar text messages before.
It's 3 text messages. It's a TRI.
Oh yes, yeah. A lot of people get those.
Yeah, 70.3, right?
So I started getting some of those, and then I was like, you know what? Screw it. Like, let's just sign up for something, put it on the calendar, because it's happening.
Yeah,
so,
hell
put
yeah.
Memphis on the calendar, and was like, okay, like now we have to train and we have to do this. Like, it's on the calendar. Everyone knows that you're doing it, and you got to just figure it out. So yeah, Victory has been finding just triathlon in general is something I didn't even know that I needed. I didn't know that I needed this group of people. It's been a really neat experience for me, just kind of the whole thing.
It is funny because when you said that first year, I wasn't sure what I was getting into. I'm walking into a place that's out of my comfort zone to just go and talk to people. And then I've heard athletes in year 2, like, this is the favorite weekend of my year. Like, right. It's like Christmas for them. Like Troy Bloom's often said, like, this is like my favorite time because I get to see the people that I'll train with, the people that I encourage, the people that encourage me, that inspire me. But now I get to work out with them.
Right.
And
see them in person. Right?
Yeah, and the workouts are a blast, and it's fun, but it's also that embrace to suck together, or we're going to go through this together, and we're going to learn together, and that's sometimes the coolest part of the camp.
Yeah, and I mean they're communicating all the time, whether it's in the WhatsApp chat or through Circle and the portal. But when they can actually sit down and have a meal or hang out and celebrate the training, celebrate the race schedule, ask questions of each other and actually collaborate, even if it's just on, hey, when are you going to race next year? Oh, I want to maybe do that with you. And then, get those connections made more deeply with each other. I think it's one of the main purposes of having a in-person event here in Pittsburgh for us. So it's really awesome. But Annie, give the listeners quickly, and we'll tell the rest of the story, but where did you end up after a couple of years in triathlon, coming from being a walking on a treadmill person to now, right? Give them the end of the story at this point, because it's going to continue to write itself. But
yeah. So yeah, then last year, like year 2 of going to Victory Camp was a lot more, the first year was very fun, but the second year was a lot more fun because I actually had even more relationships with people and had, met more people, even did, signed up to do, like, the first race I just did by myself, didn't know anyone. Then we all signed up to do Happy Valley, stayed in a house with a bunch of people together, which was really fun to kind of just talk about the race as a group before, all hang out before the race and after the race, was really fun. And then at Happy Valley, I actually qualified for Worlds in Finland. So that was a little fun and a little stressful to plan a trip in about a month.
Right. But you punched your ticket. You took your spot too, right?
Yeah,
so you qualified and took the spot.
Yes. Qualified and took the spot, yes.
Again, said, hell with it. I'm just doing this. I'll figure it out. Right?
Yeah, so we'll figure it out. Like, let's do it. It's fine.
Hey, Annie, I think as a coach, I get to sit back and watch you guys all grow up, and I love it. And, the TRI would go to you because I'd see her swims, and they were not like pedestrian. They were like 120, 125. I'm like, your way around the water. She's like, oh yeah, I'm a swimmer. I was a swimmer. And that's when the TRI started. But I think as we watched you go into this, watching Bailey behind the scenes that day at Penn State, It's an absolute rainstorm. It is thundering like crazy. We had 4 of our people qualify, and he's running, and he's got his card, like the credit card out there. He's like, Annie, we're going. We're going to Finland. You get that as soon as they call your name and you accept it. I'm up to the table. But just watching Bailey, how he's watched you go, and I think his story is just starting in this sport.
Yeah,
and it's just funny watching all of you transpire. So go ahead. So Finland happened, Penn State happened. Go ahead, jump back in.
So then after, Finland was a really, really neat experience. Just getting to race with people all over the world. I mean, I'm talking to a 6-year-old woman from Iran when we finished. Like, it's just so crazy. Like, to see people of all ages there. I talked to another girl. I forget what country she was from now, but she was from a different country before we got in the water, both kind of like just nervous, anxious energy going into it. So that was really neat. And then at Muncie, because I had told Jeff, I was like, okay, like I've done really good in my first 2 races. Like, I want to get top 5. Like, I want to, podium, do all that.
Podium.
Yep.
Yeah. So at Muncie, I think it was Sarge, during the run, he was like, hey, you're in 3rd. Like, just keep it cool, but you're in 3rd. So then the whole time I was like, I got to find these other girls.
Go hunting.
I have to figure out who these other girls are that are in my age group and like try and catch them. He's like, don't go too fast, but just know like you're in 3rd. I'm like, okay, great. So then at the end, like I didn't even care about my time at that point. I was like, okay, we're just gonna get through this. Like, as long as you have a good run, which is like the biggest thing that me and Jeff had focused on, was just the run. So he's like, as long as you just have a good run, like you're going to do what you accomplished to do. And I ended up getting 2nd and PRing my half marathon time, which is insane for, after doing 56 miles on the bike. So that was a big accomplishment last year. Like, Finland was really cool, but like at the end of the day, I was like, I thought that Muncie was like the better experience, just because a lot of my friends got to come, my grandparents got to come. So it was cool to have some like personal connections there as well.
Annie, I think one of the things we've known about you is what did I always say about you? You come out
swinging.
You come out swinging. She's not gonna like ask questions. She's throwing the first punch, and all she needed to hear was 2 people are in front of you. She was ready to chop wood.
We kind of knew what to give her in that moment on that run. So.
And Annie, what was the other thing I'd always say? Like, hey, make sure Bailey like pisses you off in the morning.
Make sure Bailey pisses you off. Yep.
Run mad.
Because if she gets mad, she's gonna run mad. Oh yeah, Annie. That was her. That was her big thing. Comes out swinging. Oh
yeah. That's a great evolution, Annie, and we are glad that we will be able to be part of that and bring you along with that. And whether it's the teammates, it's the coaches, Coach Nelly, you mentioned Jeff, but he goes by Jay Nelly for the other listeners here. And, really working your plan and getting you in that right space to be able to take advantage of that. And not only podium, but come in silver on that particular race on that day is huge accomplishment, and we're proud of you for that, and proud of you for Finland, and proud of you for Happy Valley and all the things that you've done. So we're going to come back to you on the race camp piece because I want to hear more about Little Ring on your first year, but that's a whole nother thing. But I want to bring Matt in on the conversation. He's been sitting here quietly, nervous on his first podcast, but he's ready to go. So Matt, you were a like power lifter, just a heavy weight lifter, right?
Yeah, just enjoyed the gym, trying to get back into better shape after falling off. And
you also
certainly did.
Came out swinging as well.
Yeah, I'm like, let's get after it. And then, I didn't have a bike.
He definitely did. He signed up and didn't have anything.
Right.
Yeah. So that was definitely some growing pains and just the whole, overwhelming triathlon experience, needing a bike, needing all these extra shoes and pull stuff.
I remember you came to one of our North Park runs and you're like, hey, can you put my pedals on? I'm like, I just got a bike. I got pedals. I got shoes. I got this. He's like, you had this whole trunk full of stuff.
Yeah, we kind of just bought everything and like, let's get this rolling.
We're building your bike right in the parking lot, right?
Well, I think the first time I actually ran with him, he drove up. We ran 5 or 10 miles at North Park. Remember, we went to get breakfast after and we swam. And I think he had like all black shoes. They were like, looked like Michelin tires. Like you were grinding. It was in the snow. Now he's all fancy. He's got the multi-color shoes.
He's all matchy. He's got his kit on.
He lays his stuff out now. That day he had his like hoodie on, a trash bag underneath it. He had it all going on.
Yeah, we're in it. But the first 6-7 months in Victory, that was a big thing. And then race camp, I think, we did Pittsburgh half before the first race camp.
Correct. Yeah.
Sure. So
in May.
The running, I was really dialed in with that at that point, but then it's like, race camp, we're only a month out from Ohio, and I'm like, I hadn't swam 1.2 yet. And that was a real, like, that weekend was a very big transitional time as far as my confidence and how I'm going to do in this thing. So, but being around athletes, like, I'm a pretty, shy, quiet guy myself, but having been in Victory and doing a few events, I was pretty comfortable with everybody. But like I was telling Coach Sarge before we started here, like, the thing about race camp, it's like a marketplace of talent from people. Like, you feed off of what everyone else brings to the table, and that's intoxicating because everyone has their little tips and tricks and their things that they're good at and their backgrounds, and that all wears off, and you pick up these little things here and there that help you build confidence and just help you feel a little bit better about what that result's going to be. So,
oh yeah, that first Pittsburgh Marathon, that was epic. That was like our first team party.
Right.
It was. I think there was a COVID
COVID party. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, everybody got COVID.
Oh yeah. Tugboat showed up. He's like, I think I have COVID.
Yeah,
Next thing I know,
everybody got it.
Nelson texted me like, I'm not feeling really well. Colina, I'm not feeling so good.
You got it.
He got it.
Yep.
Everybody had it. Was in my house. I think my whole house went down. I'm the only one. I don't think I got it. I don't know. Who knows?
You had it. You just didn't know it.
I probably did. Yeah, but that was the best. Like, and again, I think watching what you came to, taking that step of, I don't know what this is going to look like. I know pushing weights. I know push and pull. I know all of that. Yeah. So Matt, I mean, you came out of literally, and I think I love that so much about you, just the fact that you just didn't know, but you had it in your heart that I want to do this. I love that 5K. I'm going into the unknown. Heck, I don't even know who this team is, who's coaching me. And I got to buy a bike. You had to buy a bike. You had to figure swimming out, which I know when you first started, that was like an Achilles for you, just getting in the water.
It was huge. It was huge. I mean, the first time we swam together, I think you shaved 30 seconds off my 100,
Right.
just from learning actual proper technique. And, I was that naive to the sport but I was willing to learn it and let's go,
I think the key thing you just said is I was willing to learn,
Sure.
and that's the team camp. It's all about learning. Like to your point, a lot of the athletes come here with that idea of I want to get better, but they don't even realize they're bringing things to the table that you just said it. Like, it is a marketplace, like what you do in Ironman Maryland, what you did in Penn State, like Ohio, like people are learning from you. And that's all eyes are on. And so that's the thing when you have coach led, when you have people that come with pure eyes and an open heart, and they're ready to go, like they're ready to go and ready to learn. So I think that's so awesome.
It's probably the most important thing for any of our athletes that come to us, as newbies that have not done tri before. And in that first year, it's a lot of awakenings happen, but it's that willingness to just participate, right? If I keep showing up, and I keep showing up, whether it's by myself and with Annie running by herself, swimming by herself, or I keep showing up to our group events here in Pittsburgh, or I live in another state and I keep showing up to my local run group because it's in my plan to do it, and I keep leaning in, and I trust the team, I trust the coaches, I trust the group. And then have some confidence that we're not the first ones. The first ones that ever did Ironman were in the 70s. It's been quite a number of decades. So let's trust that we're going to be okay. If we do the work, we're going to be okay. And, you're being a willing participant, Annie being a fighter and saying, I'm going to do this no matter what, anyhow, all plays into it. But it's the willingness and the receptivity of just figuring it out.
Yeah, and that's what's cool about having everybody together. Like, you pick up on these little things. It's not like every athlete is saying, hey, this is what I do, X, Y, Z, but you're around so many people, you notice and pick up on their little things that they do, and you kind of see, okay, well, maybe I can integrate that, and then you get to talking, and then it's explained more, and then a bond forms with your teammates. Like, I think the first week I stayed with, or the first camp I stayed with Jordan Harper.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was just such a great guy. We were similar, abilities at that point, and we got along really well, and we were both nervous in that pool, and we both did that 1.2, and that was a huge confidence booster going into being a month out from my first 70.3. I was a nervous wreck the whole prep basically, but team camp really helped calm those nerves because you're not the only one in that position either. Everybody's going through that.
It's really interesting that you say I'm not the only one, because I think sometimes in our world, in our life, that we get caught up like, oh man, I have this Ironman. Well, who signed up for it? Right? You did. And there's 3,000 other people in it that are going to go through that together. So it is nice when you do realize, man, I'm in this pressure cooker of Ohio, but Troy Bloom's in there with me. Mm-hmm. And this one's in there, Snipe's in there. Like, you trained with them. So they're going to the same place. And I've often said it's that cheers mentality. Like, I want to go to a place where everybody knows my name. And when you come into Muncie, like Annie, you raced with not only me, you raced with 10 or 11 other people. And we had stellar days, man. Yeah. We had age group wins. We had 3 people, I think, qualify for
New Zealand,
yeah.
The next 70.3 championship.
We had sub 6 hours on predominantly everybody there.
We had people awesome. Shave almost 2 hours off their previous on a different course, but still, they did much better. Where they, time exceeded allowable in their previous race, and then they came in under the time frame based on a organized training plan and some coaching and some encouragement that came from the team. So we had many breakthroughs in Muncie.
Yeah.
Along with you.
Yeah. And it's funny because, tell us your story, Matt. So like, you did the camp, so we know Annie's hit 70.3s, won podium, Finland. Let us know where you went since joining Victory.
So since Victory, the first thing we did was the half in Pittsburgh. And that's where I really got hooked pretty quickly, because just that competition, I mean, you remember that day, it rained so bad.
Oh, yeah.
And the after party, but just the thrill of, getting that distance under my belt, thinking, wow, I just did a half marathon and I couldn't run 3 miles 5 months ago. Mm-hmm. And that was just an amazing, an amazing thing to see unfold under your own. You're watching this happen as you're putting in the work, and you're showing up for these, like Annie said, running alone, doing a lot of your own workouts. You don't know where you stack up, and then you toe that line for where there's thousands of people doing the same thing, and you have a respectable time. Wow, that was a huge confidence booster. And then, like I said, going into race camp, collaborating with your teammates and other people that are doing the same race, and then Ohio comes around, and that was definitely the pinnacle of being nervous, having all the nerves. Never swam open water, maybe a few times up to that point. I think we did a few training sessions up there, and mm-hmm. I'm just like, I won't forget this point. You're like, we're out there swimming and doing the week that we were there, we were doing a couple swim sessions, and we were headed out in the Lake Erie, and I stopped, and I'm like, I can't touch the bottom. And I'm like freaking out. And that's the first time, because the day before, I think we were at the breakers. Mm-hmm. So we were swimming parallel with the beach. So you're in 4 feet of water, whatever, not a big deal. Now we're swimming out into the ocean, into the lake.
It's kind of like an ocean.
Yeah.
It's wild out there.
Yeah. It's huge. So we sort of headed out deeper, and I couldn't feel the bottom. And I said, Coach, like, I can't touch the bottom. Like what am I going to do? You're like, oh, just don't stop. Just don't stop.
Just keep swimming.
Yeah, just keep swimming.
Like Dory,
okay,
right?
What do I do?
And then you were fine.
Nemo.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, well, that's what we're doing then.
Yeah.
So, but no, the race kicked off. It was delayed a little bit from thunderstorms in the morning, so even more time for the nerves to build up. But jumping off that boat they had, that was a really cool start to a race. Jumping off that boat in the marina there. Had, I think, the best swim time I ever had at that distance. Mm-hmm. Got out on the bike, very windy, but pushed through. And then there was a very hot run, but it didn't matter at that point, because I'm 10 miles from the finish. I'm 5 miles from the finish. I'm 2 miles. Had my dad there, had friends and family, and it was just such an experience to know that you did it, and then you get bit, and you're like, all right, now what's next?
Yeah. And see, Matt, the thing that's awesome is, you were wrestling with a lot of stuff back then, in that Ohio days, mm-hmm. and to see your family come out of nowhere And there's a picture that your dad is reaching out with all he had just to touch your hand on that run. And it's brilliant, like absolutely brilliant. Watching you come around the corner on that last phase, like as a coach, I loved racing in Muncie. I did, I was seeing it inside the lines, just like you did in Texas.
Sure.
But there's something special that day watching 20 of my people, that I might have recruited in, that I might have absolutely planned, that I might have
definitely had a welcome call with them.
Oh yeah.
Right. Because you're on every welcome call for every athlete.
Right.
Sure.
But like just watch and understanding what Matt was playing for that day,
That's right.
How much he overcame, the time when he signed up and trusted the fact, I don't even have a bike. I'm not sure what this is going to look like, but I'm going for it anyway.
That's right.
And the grind gave him back one heck of a day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, to see those family members who, you've told your dad what you're doing. They don't understand.
No, they don't.
They have no idea. They're like,
Oh, he's on the bike again.
Is that a marathon? Is that I've never really heard of this? And why would you want to do that? Right? Why would you ever do that?
That sounds terrible.
That sounds horrible. Right? So, but then when they get there and they feel it vicariously through you, their son, their daughter, you said you had family in Muncie, Annie watching you, when they see a loved one out there doing the grind and performing and having fun in doing it, even though you are sweaty and tired, you're still smiling. You're smiling when you see them. They're smiling when they see you. Then it starts to sink in. And it doesn't even matter about the technical things of triathlon. It's about the emotion that comes from putting yourself out there, putting yourself through this, but with them watching you do it.
Yeah, and they're watching you out there just giving it your all. And from a perspective of a personal standpoint, it's like I hadn't had that feeling since I was in T-ball watching my parents, come and cheer me on. I mean, as an adult, that's a whole different. It's the same feeling, but it's like, wow, like you kind of forget what that feels like.
And it's, quite frankly, it's something that people don't get much of as an adult. So it's, it feeds the soul in some ways, and it helps everybody become a better person. It helps them become a better, parent, and even in your adult life. And I think it's amazing for everybody that's involved.
Yeah.
And that's why people spectate so hard at Ironman. That's why we race, and if we're able to come back and watch those midnight finishes and that kind of thing, that's where I know Kenny likes this. That's the secret sauce of this whole thing, right?
Or the sizzle to his steak.
The sizzle, right? Because it's where you see the rawness of the human condition. Absolutely. Of someone that has been grinding for 17 hours or 16.8 hours to get through that. And so it's really cool. And I'm glad you guys shared that about each of your families being able to be present at some of those races.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the biggest benefits of Tri, because it's like, no matter what, they're like, that's my boy out there. That's my daughter, whoever.
Oh, yeah.
And you see something you haven't seen from, your parents or whoever for forever. And it's very inspiring.
Well, it was kind of cool because I think then, in your year 2 planning, it went to Pittsburgh full marathon, sliced and diced at. Then it went to another 70.3, and you landed in a Ironman full distance. And we'll hear about that too. But it was nice because I think you said to me a few times, yeah, we're like mom and dad, like what races are we going to do? Like they're asking him, like, what are we going to do?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're planning their vacations around.
They're like loading up the cooler already and ready to go, right? They're bringing the cart and
Dad's
everything
got the
else.
igloo cooler,
the igloo and the chair, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How much ice do we need?
That's awesome. So how was that? You got through all that, and let's talk about your full, right?
Yeah, so the full was coming off. That wasn't something that was necessarily planned last year. I mean, 2023 was one heck of a year of racing. It was a very full year. We did Happy Valley, which was... I knew I wanted to race something else later in the year, but full really wasn't. It was kind of in the conversation, but it wasn't planned by any means. So I got off that high at Happy Valley, and I really enjoyed that course. For the first time year there, it was a beautiful course, beautiful race. I didn't have the result that I necessarily wanted, but it didn't matter. It was an improvement from 22, and talking to Coach Jeff, he's like, hey, I really think you could do Maryland. I'm like, well, that's like 8 weeks out. He's like, oh no, you'll be fine. We just bump up the bike a little bit. We're going to bump up the run a little bit, bump up, everything just a little bit, but you're there, you're ready to go. So I kind of went back and forth to doing it. And it's like, you know what? The training is already there. It's only grinding it out for another 8 weeks or whatever. And, signed up late, but we made it. And what an experience that was, for sure. I mean,
what was your time in that race? Because you were 10 hours?
10:53.
Yeah, which is unbelievable in your first attempt. I mean,
That's right.
Unbelievable. And you looked so good that day. Like watching you throughout the day on that run, like you were just moving, motoring, man.
Well, shout out to Jay Nelly for sure. I mean, he got me right on the bike, and that training block was a whole other experience. Just going 80 miles, going 90 miles, and I remember the day I went 120, and I couldn't contain myself because I'm like, I just rode my bike 120 miles. I was out there for 6 hours and 25 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think I can do this. I can do 112. Yeah.
Well,
for sure.
And it's funny because you said it back then, like when I did I was hooked in the Pittsburgh half, like, man, I just ran 13 miles. And then a year later, man, I got off my bike for 120 miles. I ran a marathon. And that's the stuff that I think people forget is Annie came here as just a runner that was having shin splints and she was hurt. And with having, I sent something out on Instagram the other day. It was about, a coach that says there's, you've been told I love you, but the 4 most important words are I believe in you. And having people believe in you, your teammates believing in you, your coaches believing in you, and you're willing to do the work, you can go anywhere. And dramatically, I'll bet both of your lives have changed because Annie, you decided to make a phone call to get better at running, to come to a team camp, and to trust the fact of what you have and what you're being led to. And your hearts are pulling you in a direction that aren't pulling you like you were before this, which is wild. I look back and think some of the things I've achieved in my personal life are a direct correlation because I stepped into an Ironman and I believe.
For sure. And
I kept going. When I wanted to quit, take one more stroke, one more step. There's something so big on the other side of that hurt, on the other side of the fear. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that all of us have experienced, and Annie will experience someday soon. 140 point.
I think I texted her already.
So
she knows. I heard rumors that she was going to Switzerland this year. Or an international.
No, not Switzerland, but I am doing Arizona. Been kind of on the down low, but I did.
Wait a minute.
Spoiler alert!
This right now?
Spoiler alert!
I mean, yeah, Jeff knows and Julia, but that's about it on Victory that knows. Yeah.
Did you tell Bailey? Does he know?
Yeah, Bailey knows. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure because when we qualify for Worlds, we need to have that card there.
All right. Well,
right.
now after listening or watching the podcast, everyone knows. Annie's going to Arizona 140.6.
Annie, I will be there, and I will be super pumped to coach you. I'm going to be coaching on that race. I'm going to be there with Coach Alice.
Awesome.
I think potentially Steve Big Rig Hawley might be in that race.
Correct.
Steve Nathanson is going to be in that
Steve
race.
Nathanson, for sure.
And then you got Alice, and that'll be her first 140.6.
I think some other dominoes will drop between now and then too.
I do too.
So it's been hovering on a couple people's calendars. So there's going to put some pins in it.
Yeah, I have a feeling there's one girl that we run with on Fridays that is going to move
That's right.
hers from Chattanooga to Arizona.
Yeah. So we'll have a whole victory party out there.
It's going to be a takeover, Andy.
Tempe,
Right,
Arizona.
hey, I love it.
And we know the course. Coach Kenny did it 2 years ago, and Coach Scott did it last year. So we've been having some experience in there. So there'll be a lot of good intel coming out for all the athletes that'll be running. And Coach Kenny will be on site for sure. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
So Matt, when you finished, did you do a line dance? Like, were you like super excited?
Yeah, this is back to Maryland for Matt.
No. I crossed the line, got a picture, and then I passed out.
You left it all out there. When we talk about leaving it all on the field, it was all out there.
I'm getting texts like Matt's down. I don't even know if he knows where his phone's at. And I'm like, well, where's Matt at? They're like, he's in the tent.
He's
I'm
in the
like,
medical
I'm
tent.
like, is he still in the tent or is he out of the tent? And then all of a sudden, like, I think there was some Cosamigos on the course there that day or whatever that stuff is. And nobody knew. And I'm like, well, where is he at? Is he still there? Is he home? Yeah. So, I mean,
it was
incredible.
so interesting too, because the bike went really well. I was got off the bike, was feeling really confident. Legs felt great. I'm like, okay, let's get this marathon done. And then my paces were pretty consistent. Nutrition, I think I managed the race pretty well, or as best that I could. But you know, like Sarge says a lot of the times, like you don't know what you don't know when you're in the unknown zone.
That's right.
Because I hadn't ran a marathon after biking 112. And that was one thing back to training after that big 120 day. I'm like, how am I going to run a marathon after this? But we'll figure it out when we get there. So basically the first half of the marathon went pretty well. And then I could feel energy starting to dip. I was trying to stay on top of my nutrition. But it was such that back half of the marathon was unforgettable because, you know, at one point you're kind of having an out of body experience because you're just so drained and you're running on pure adrenaline. And I remember at one point, one of the turnarounds, I'm like, I can't see. And it's like, well, I can't see because my sunglasses were on. And I'm like, it's dark outside. I've been out here all day. like I had to like actually think to take off my sunglasses because the sun's setting. And I'm like, that just overwhelmed me. It blew me away. I'm like, I've been out here all day. And that adrenaline got me through the last 6 to 7. You know, you guys were at the house cheering and carrying on, and I was just like, I remember telling you how bad it hurt. We ran past, and I'm like, you're like, you know, I know it hurts, just keep going. And
it's just like when he said, I can't
Keep
touch
swimming.
the bottom.
yeah,
Just keep swimming, man.
keep going. But in the last 3 miles I didn't take on any nutrition. I didn't stop at an aid station. I'm just like, we're gonna seal this deal. So came across the line. Of course, you just, like I said, on pure adrenaline. And then once that stopped, walked over to the tent, got my picture, and then it just kind of went dark for a little bit after that. But
that was such a special race, though, like having the people in that race, you know, the Hollies and Tanza.
I think Ben was your soulmate through that process, right? Because that first half marathon at Pittsburgh, that was Ben's first half marathon. Right. So that same journey or that same arc that you took to get to Maryland, you know, Ben took it in a separate way down from Kentucky. So he's training by himself. He got to ride with his dad a little bit because he refused to do the trainers, right? He would only ride outside, but still that's Ben's way. But that was great to have everybody there.
Oh, yeah. Just even having that night out, that Friday night, is sitting behind the house we were in, the cookout, talking to the athletes, getting them amped up. Like the whole thing was just, you know, Keller was losing his mind. Like everybody was going nuts, man. Like seeing you guys, I think 6 times a piece on the run. Yeah. You know, and it was great because you guys were spaced like 5-10 minutes out, would see somebody coming. And we had eyes on you, and everybody looked fantastic.
Yeah, it was really good, really good. Matt, you mentioned something. I think it's important for listeners out there, and you talked about you don't know what you don't know. I mean, for anybody that's doing their first 140.6, you know, there is a tremendous amount of unknowns. While you may have swam more than 2.4, you may have biked 120, you know, you may have run a marathon or more, and you may have done some brick workouts and some other things. The landscape of the entire 140.6 has never been done, right? No one's going out and training 140.6 miles in one day just to get ready for an Ironman. You're actually taking the test on the day, right? So being prepared in ways to be able to monitor yourself. And to your point, you were trying to keep head on your nutrition. You had these thoughts in your head. I'm sure Jay Nelly's voice was up there, you know, speaking to you.
Oh, yeah.
And everything else. And I think it's just important to give yourself the grace, as everybody that might be listening is going to go through this process when it's their time, that's part of the preparation. There's the physical preparation of doing those long training sessions and bricks and long swims and, you know, all the combo days. Maybe you do Hurt Locker and some other things from time to time. But, you know, practicing all those aspects, practicing that, how do you feel? Making notes, even journaling is not out of the realm of possibility of how those workouts go, whether you do it in Training Peaks or you do it in a notebook or you do it in your phone on a notepad, so that you have that kind of thought process of how you're feeling and how you're adjusting and how your intra-race strategies start to unfold on that day, right? Because Ironman's going to push back, right? We use a different term sometimes, but the Ironman's going to push back, whether it's weather, whether it's the swim with tides and that kind of stuff, whether it's hot as hell in Galveston when you come off the bike, or it's the course itself pushing back with the elevation and that type of thing. And you kind of have to be able to adjust.
Yeah, and I believe that, I mean, a lot of triathletes say this and a lot of Ironman finishers say this, but the real experience of a 140.6 happens 10 months before the day it happens. I mean, the whole journey is just, there's all these little stories, these training sessions, these times where you don't think that you can do it, times that you have killer workouts, you're like, yeah, I got this. Funny things along the way. Like I said, the first 120-mile ride, that was something. The first time I swam full distance, this is a funny story. Me and my dad was out of a reservoir by my house. I did 4,500 that day. And it's like a little beach or some families having a cookouts or whatever. And all these families, unbeknownst to me, are just watching me do these laps. And I get out and these people just start clapping. And I'm looking around like, what are these people clapping at? And the one family was like, we were watching you for an hour and a half. We didn't know when you was going to stop. And just little things like that. And then the park ranger's like, hey, come over here. You just swim. You were out there for a while, weren't you? What are you doing? I said, train for Ironman. He's like, oh, well, you got a permit to swim out there? I'm like,
yeah, let me bust you.
Did you really get a ticket?
He gave me a warning because you to swim outside the pool
or the
ropes or whatever. And I had a wetsuit. I had a little buoy behind me. My dad was in the kayak following me. And I'm thinking I'm taking every precaution. He's wanting to write me a ticket for $40 or something. Congratulations.
They want their permit fee, right? That's their
just little things like that.
Their party fund
that you remember. That you remember in the process of training for one of these. It's an unbelievable experience.
But who got to do that too? And I'll bet when God calls your dad home, that's going to be one of his favorite days. He got to be in the kayak and watch his boy just swim and knowing all those people are probably watching. And it is odd. We were just in Bermuda and we swam. We were about 5 miles in and we looped from the airport all the way into St. George's, back up the airport in the Grotto Bay, outside and in. But we had to stop at Grotto Bay so he could go to the bathroom. We parked the kayak. It's so odd. I come out of the water in a wetsuit because it was low 60s. He runs right up to the bathroom. Everyone's on the beach what the heck just happened?
It was the Navy SEALs just landed at Grotto Bay.
Are we under attack? There's some guy in a wetsuit. Some guy looks militant. They're running into Grotto Bay to go to the bathroom. This one and then he gets back in the kayak. I eat something and I just throw my gum into the water because I chew gum in the salt water to try to keep that taste. And all of a sudden we're gone. And they're probably like, what the heck just happened?
Yeah. It's awesome. So really good times, good stories. But thanks for that, Matt, and congratulations on your full Ironman last year. So awesome deal. So Annie, let's talk about that little ring on that first year of race camp.
Oh my God, please let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the kickoff. That's what got us to want to have you on the podcast. It's a great story of we already talked about you drove in, you really didn't know anybody, you started meeting people, and we're doing the long bike day on Saturday, and you're kind of grinding, but you're in this little ring. So
yeah, so I mean, I rode a bike as a kid, but I don't know, your parents just set the gears and you just go. I don't think about shifting or doing anything like that. I'd ridden maybe a handful of times outside before camp, but not very many because it was just not very warm out. So we're just going around North Park, just doing the loops, and Kenny rolls up on me. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. What do you mean? Why are you in the little ring? I was like, what's the little ring? I had no idea that there's a little ring, a big ring. Knew nothing. He's like, here, put yourself in the big ring. I'm like, oh, I'm going so much faster. It's so much easier now.
She was motoring that.
She was.
Knew no better. Now when I see other people in little ring, I need to go educate them. I need to teach them. They should not be pedaling that much on this very flat Indiana road.
Well, it was, and see again, that's the fun part because we have athletes everywhere, and we recognize talent, you recognize athleticism, and I come right behind Annie, and we're on a flat on the parts of North Park.
Sure.
And I see her cadence is like 130.
Yeah.
And I'm
she's like spinning her butt off. Right.
I'm like, Annie, what's up, man? She's like, nothing. I'm just riding my bike. I'm like, lift that one gear up, put it in, and all of a sudden she's like, whoa, like we're moving now. And that's why I started calling her Little Ring. And Little Ring turned into a massive ring. I mean, just in the course of her, and I think Annie, the other breakthrough that weekend I had for you was I knew what type of swimmer you had, and this goes back, we'll come back to Matt too on that. And on Saturday we attacked North Park Pool after their yoga, their run, bike, whatever they want to do the distances. And you went in the water with Kate Hawley, yourself, and there could have been one or two other swimmers in there. And I think you and
I
Kate.
think Bean was in there too.
Yeah, and Bean.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah, and I think all of you, because I think that might have been the first time in a 50-meter pool. It might have been the first time in cooler water, because I think North Park is predominantly cool because how big it is.
And it's not heated. Yeah.
Right. And I think you guys all like came back to the wall and had like like one of those panic moments, like my breathing's all thrown off. Everything's weird. And did you guys get out of the pool then, or did you just figure it out and just keep going?
Me and Kate were on like the other end of the pool. Like it swam 50 down, and like I was kind of like freaking out, like felt like I couldn't breathe. Just a mixture of swimming in a wetsuit for like maybe the second time ever, and just the cooler water, having someone swim at your feet. Like I usually swim in a lane by myself, or if I am swimming with someone in the pool, they're like older, so they're not. They're on their side of the lane. I'm on my side of the lane. I've never swam with someone behind me. So then it's the pressure of like, am I going too slow? Am I going too fast? So just kind of had a little bit of a panic moment, which is not the first time that's happened to me in the water. So yeah, Kate kind of like just calmed me down. Like we kind of just focused on our breathing, just kind of slowed down and got back into it. Cause I've had, that panic moment then at race camp, and then also had a panic moment in Memphis. So how Matt said, I can't touch my feet to the ground. I kind of had a panic moment in Memphis to where I'm grabbing onto the buoy and I'm just sitting there like trying to calm myself down, breathe. So I've been one of those people, and my dad was at that race. And I remember afterwards, he's like, did you stop swimming? And were you just like hanging out on a buoy? I'm like, yep, that was me. Just kind of had to calm myself down, just the nerves of the day of doing 70.3 miles. So I've had a couple panic moments in the water, and it's perfectly fine and normal.
It is 100% fine. I mean, I had a minor one in Galveston until I got to the first or second buoy, because it was all just like chaotic and water up my nose, but it got through it. So that's awesome. The coaches were on the other side of the pool, Annie, and we were like, the hell is everybody stopping on the far side for? Because they didn't want to hear it from us, right? So they would stop on the far side to have their little meetings or have their little panic attacks, and then they'd get back in and come to our side, and we're like trying to give them some coaching tips and that type of thing. Then they'd stop again. I'm like, why is everybody stopping? Right? So it was kind of funny that day. I remember that well.
Well, that was hard for me because like I put a lot of time in that. Like I tried to put them in their lanes as I knew what their swim times were, and really have them push each other.
Sure.
And Annie's lane was loaded. Like there was all kind of like good, because Bean will swim mad. Like she swims like Arnold Schwarzenegger. She's ready to like attack the water.
That's right.
Kate is very methodical and long, and Annie's an engine, and watching them like work it. And then I had in your lane, Matt, and it's funny, if you look at Matt's lane now, in that lane, you got one Ironman finisher. Troy Bloom is racing this coming weekend in Ironman Texas. You had Hogg, who has finished Ohio, and then you have Harp, who's going in Texas as well.
Right.
So you have two of your mates in that lane are about to become Ironmen, and you have Chris, who that day had a panic attack right in the middle of the swim. He was reaching at his throat, the wetsuit. Yep. It was a 50-meter pull. And I think the thing that was so awesome is Chris kept trying. And they were just swimming. I said to Matt, I'm like, listen, I'm putting you in with good swimmers. Don't let them pass you. Don't let them touch your feet. Because if you're on Bloom's feet, Bloom doesn't want you to touch him.
Right.
If Harp's on your feet, don't let him touch you. And they had one heck of a workout. And that was his first time he ever went 1.2 miles. But the thing that was so humbling is Chris stood on the wall, and each one of those guys, when they got out, would just tap him on the shoulder and just say, your day's coming, your day's coming.
Yep.
Keep working. And it was awesome, man. And for Chris, I mean, he's had one hell of a story. I mean, he had finished a sprint triathlon, got pulled out of an Olympic, and 3 weeks later, went back to Ohio and conquered that beast. And he now is doing Ironman Louisville this year, and it's just so cool watching them. But that was your first big breakthrough in the water.
Absolutely.
I can, and I'm good.
Yeah, and all the variables, the 50-meter pool. I think we went there the first day the pool opened. It was freezing. It was cold. We were trying to break through the gates getting in. They were, we were all fired up. Yeah, they were mad at us.
The one guy had the grinder cutting the padlocks off because they couldn't find the key to open the gate. Right?
And we're all standing there like atypical triathletes, like we all have our wetsuits on. I think people are going in to use the bathroom, and that's making them mad. And I think there was a couple girls that went in the men's bathroom because they had to go,
right?
And they're aggravated. One guy's trying to cut the locks open. You have people in their wetsuit. Ben Hawley's yelling, like, oh, it was wild, man. It was wild. And they didn't care because they don't swim there. They're looking at me like, oh, you did this.
Yeah. All those out of towners. You brought all these out of towners here.
Get out of here.
Then they want to charge. It's a county pool, so they charge you $6, and they're like, oh, exact change only. We're like, nobody had $6. We're like, what the heck? So,
yeah,
it was fun times though. Fun times.
And that's the team camp that, I love it. The collab that we put as coaches through with, this coming year. I mean, you got Coach Lauren leading yoga, Coach Bow's leading probably run analysis. You got Kenny Prezzuti, who's another coach at he owns his own business. He's doing chi running. Mm-hmm. We're Matty Moe, who's one of our elite coaches in Trust the Plan. We have him coming. Like, we're bringing the people in to make our athletes better.
We're bringing the heat. We're bringing the heat and the knowledge and all these experts to help in each specific aspect of multi-sport and endurance sports, because we have runners only that are coming to camp as well. Plenty of events for them to participate in throughout the 3-day process. Certainly triathletes are going to get, plenty of opportunities to do workouts and to do some fun stuff too, right? You're going to have long bike day. You're going to have long swim day. You're going to have some open water stuff, but we're also doing a trail run, secondary swims, kind of like cool downs and that type of thing. So it's amazing to have all these people come into town, people coming from all over, and having this kind of stable of coaches that have all this knowledge in their specific discipline to help and really shine for them as a coach and for the athletes to really benefit from it. So that's really the purpose. And we're going to have beginners to some of our elite athletes that have raced on the biggest stages that are still working towards, new goals and more advanced goals. They're going to be here training and supporting and hanging out socially in the evenings with everybody, telling stories, giving those tips and those tricks and those slight pieces of advice that you go out and try in training. And if it works, then you put it into your race plan, right? And if it doesn't, throw it to the wayside, pick up a new tip, right? It's all good. It's all good.
And that's kind of the cool thing, because the newbies are going to get what you learned. That's the first time I ever swam 1.2 miles. Now you're going to come in and you're going to talk to Matty Moe about, hey, what is that getting long in the water? What does that mean? That breathing, should I breathe every stroke, every fourth stroke?
Fine tuning.
Annie, understanding, what's it like, the business to run off the bike, to how can I improve transition 1 and transition 2? What form could I get better in the swim? How do I have that mindset that I'm not going to need to grab that buoy anymore? Because now it's, but then there's our new ones that, like, I just want to refine myself again. And maybe I do like this. Maybe I will want to do a sprint triathlon.
Sure.
That's kind of the cool thing, because now in the camp, you guys are going to be looked at as there's the OGs. Yeah. There's the Ironman. There's the guys that have walked and the females that have walked the walk. Oh, she went to Finland. Mm-hmm. I just want to sit at her table.
Yeah.
I want to be the one to see her in the pool and say, I recognize you on Instagram. Annie, how can I latch on to you? Because now you're going to lead from the front of the pack. And I think that's kind of
because we're going to have, we have our Rise to Try group right now that's been working towards their first or first in a long time triathlon again. getting them into their race here in May. They're going to be coming to camp just coming off of that first try, and we're going to predict that they're all going to want more. They're all going to want a little more, whether they're going from sprint to Olympic or they're going from Olympic to a 70.3. Those plans are being laid right now in their minds, in their hearts, with their families. They're talking about it at dinner. I haven't even done my sprint, but I'm thinking about signing up. Or maybe next year I do this. I'm going to find out from coach, like, where's everybody going to go? Because wherever I do it, I want to be with Victory people and I want to be with my teammates. So those conversations are happening in private, and they'll become more public once they cross the finish line of their sprint, I think.
Oh, yeah.
People will be declaring, right? We're going to Disney World. We're going to Finland. We're going wherever, right? So it's an amazing journey that this sport and these types of sports, and it could be in the running world too. We've got ultra runners right now on the team that are targeting some big races, right? That are just out there grinding, and they love being in the woods and doing the trails or being out in the desert for Harley and Tandy and those guys. And we've got people supporting them and coming and running alongside them at 2 a.m. So they can get them through those wee hours of whatever it is. So it's not just about try, even though we love the try piece. It's about anything that's pushing the human condition as far as they can. And you guys are all part of that. So it's amazing. And camp is part of that too, because as everybody said today, it's about being together while we do this hard thing. Right. And that's, I think that's a moniker that I've been studying a lot in leadership. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go long, and you got to have a team. You got to have a team to go with you. If you want to be durable for a long haul, you got to have a team around you. So that's what we were really trying to build here and trying to provide.
This Saturday, Annie, I have money on you Saturday at team camp that you're going to win the inaugural female beer mile. One beer every
sponsored
quarter mile.
By the Holly Mile podcast, right?
Annie, it is on you. I have a feeling she's going to come out like Stone Cold on the last one with 2 beers, smashing them together. I don't know why, but I feel like I'm going to have my money on you.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I don't drink a ton anymore, but back in the day, yep, I used to. So maybe that'll come out a little bit.
Just save the gas for that night. I don't know about that. I ran 5 miles today. People are like, "Are you training for the Pittsburgh half?" I'm in it. I'm going to run it with Lorelei. But they're like, "Are you training for the half?" I go, "No, the beer mile,
the Holly beer mile."
Yes, I'm getting tip top shape for that.
So another one of those fun events that's just out there, and we are going to have a beer mile race at Camp Sipple. So it's somewhat of a trail. It's around the lake or the pond, and we'll have it set up with Val's Aid Station providing the adult beverages as you go around and do your laps, right? So one every 400 as you go through there. So it's really, really awesome.
So do we want to send them off with a parting shot of what they would tell?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask them for a bit of a commercial, right? So both of you have been to multiple race camps. You've been along this journey with us as we build the camps out and increase the number of athletes that come in. And you've talked about what it meant to you a little bit as you went on that initial first couple of year journey. What would be your commercial for the listeners that have not experienced camp and or are thinking about coming to camp? Want to go ahead, Annie? We'll let Annie go first.
So I would just say to people, like, coming out and doing camp is really fun, but it's honestly even after the training's over, when we're all hanging out at either the clubhouse or whatever, that's when you really get to know people and get to kind of hear their stories and get to know them. So the training is awesome, very knowledgeable. You learn a lot, but it's also the after part that's really great.
Great. Thanks, Annie. And Matt?
Well, I would say to somebody that's considering it or if they're new to try, like you're not alone when you come to camp. Like you feel like when you start to dabble into this, that you know, you don't realize that camaraderie that is a part of team camp, that when you get there, you're like, oh man, everyone else is going through this. Everyone else is dealing with this, you know, sleep schedules, work schedules. How do we balance all these things? And no one cares about your times. No one cares about your abilities. It's about your effort and making connections that you can't put a price on it. And team camp really wraps that together nicely, because to Annie's point, like you foster relationships, and it's an investment into your career for the future, for sure. And it's just an absolute great time, and it's absolutely worth coming to.
Yeah, I love it, because I think both of you, just hearing what you were saying, you were both one-man wolf, your one-man wolf pack. Now you have 20 in your wolf pack. And sometimes you lead the wolf pack. Sometimes you're right behind it, but you have wolves that'll come out and work out with you, come out and support you and love you. And again, you've gone to a place where everyone knows who you are now, and you've earned that. And that's beautiful. That's what I love, man. I don't like the distances. I don't like the Ironman distance. I don't like a marathon. But if you say, hey, do you want to run a marathon? There's 10 of us doing it. Yeah. Sign me up.
Oh yeah.
Probably the first one to go.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cause I like the long Saturday run, the long bike ride on Sunday, because I'm doing it with my crew. And there's something that happens those days, and you're seeing that with people that
you've said that for years, Kenny, for decades now. You know, you love the chopping it up on the bike. Uh-huh. 100-mile ride, and you just chop it up, right? We're chopping it up, we're joking, and we're, you know, chatting it up to a certain degree. We're still working hard and getting the workout in, but you know, we're hitting the water stops, and we're out in nature together. We feel safer together, right, on the roads, and it's a whole process that you've always talked about, enjoying that more than the actual race sometimes, even though the race is a great accomplishment and it's a recognition of the training. It's the time spent with people.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing.
Triathlon, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, that's okay.
Triathlon is such a great disconnect from the world, where when you're out doing the long runs, like you have that 90 minutes to just there's just something about exercise in general, and especially with triathlon. And then when you're doing it with others, it's just a special, like you look forward to your weekend long runs and your weekend long rides. And,
mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And that is just, it's an amazing thing. So,
oh yeah,
that's great. That's
1,000%.
Well, Annie, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We look forward to seeing you continue and come to race camp, but also continue your journey towards that Arizona 140.6. Fantastic.
Annie to AZ.
Annie to AZ. And Matt, thanks for stopping in and being here with us in person, and contributing your thoughts about race camp and your journey through your full Ironman.
Matty, what's next for you?
I was going to say, we didn't get a declaration from you.
Well, I got Chattanooga full.
Are we doing it?
Yeah, I think we're doing it.
Okay, we're doing Chattanooga full. That's and Arizona.
Like in that May?
Yeah, that's a couple weeks away, right?
Oh wait, that's the 70.3.
The 70.3
When's your
September? I believe it's September.
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
September's a full.
September.
You had me like in a second.
Yeah,
whoa! Better get into the training plan.
Not the half the full.
Okay,
outstanding.
I love it.
Well, we appreciate both of you coming on and talking about it. For those of you listening that are, you know, have gotten inspired by Annie or Matt and their stories, or Kenny and I, we can inspire people as well, right? So, and you're interested in our race camp, there's certainly information on our website, and or hit us up on a DM from our Instagram. And the website is victory-multisport.com. You'll certainly find a lot of information there. And we look forward to hearing from you and or seeing you sign up and come to race camp, and we'll welcome you with open arms. So it's been great. Thanks for the podcast today.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So you've been listening to the Victory Multisport podcast. We'll talk to everybody very soon.